Hello everyone, Neil Tappin here from Golf Monthly, and welcome to this video in which we're going to take a look at 10 rules that golfers still get wrong. Now, for the most part in this video, the 10 that we've chosen, they're all rules that exist within the book that perhaps golfers don't even realise are there. So a golfer playing a normal round of golf might end up breaking one of these rules without realising. It can end up costing penalty shots, or even worse, being disqualified, which of course is something you definitely want to avoid if you're playing in competitions, if you're trying to get your handicap down. So what you're going to watch in this video is a conversation between myself and the Golf Monthly rules expert, Jezz Ellwood, in which we discuss these 10 rules that golfers still get wrong. Guys, if you're new to the Golf Monthly channel, please do hit the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss any of our videos. Hit the like button if you like what you're watching. But let's get started now. Let's take a look at the 10 rules that golfers still get wrong. This is our list of 10 rules that golfers still get wrong. Well worth knowing for everybody out there, regardless of how well you know the rules of golf. And the first one, Jezz, on your list, relates to repairing pitch marks when your ball is on the fringe of the green.
Yeah, it's more to do with when the pitch mark is on the fringe, to be honest. You can repair ball marks on the green at any time, on the putting green, wherever you are. But you can't repair a ball mark on the fringe if it's on your line. So if you're on the fringe and you're thinking, I really fancy putting that, and there's a great big deep ball mark just in front of you, right on your line, you can't repair that.
No.
Fortunately. You can repair them if they're not on your line and they're not interfering with the shot you're trying to play, but you just need to be aware that you can't just repair ball marks on the fringe with the same freedom as you can on the green.
That would effectively be improving your lie or your line of
line of play. Yeah, there is one scenario in which you can do it, and this is the niche one in that if that ball mark is created after your ball had come to rest, so someone else plays a shot in after your ball has come to rest and creates a massive pitch mark between your ball and the flag right on your line, you can repair that. But I'm not sure that's ever happened to me in 35 years of playing the game. But that is the one scenario in which you could repair that ball mark on your line on the fringe.
Okay, good. So moving on to number 2, playing from outside the teeing area. Now, we've all done it. We've all accidentally teed the ball up probably an inch or two in front of the tee markers without really realising it, Jezz.
Yeah.
Now, what's the penalty here? Because this is the thing that often golfers get wrong, isn't it?
Well, there is a penalty in stroke play, and there's no penalty in match play. That's the, it seems like quite a cardinal sin. You've played from outside the teeing area. There must be some sort of repercussions, and there is in stroke play. It's a 2-shot penalty, and you must correct the error before. I think it's before you tee off on the next hole now, and then there's some subtle variation if you're playing the last hole. But if you don't do that, then you get disqualified. So as soon as you become aware that you've played from outside the tee, or even from a wrong tee, you've been playing from whites and somehow on this hole you've gone forward and played off the yellows absent-mindedly. You must correct that in stroke play. In match play, it's entirely up to your opponent as to whether he gets you to play the shot again. So he can ask you to, but he might choose not to if you've sprayed it into the trees or missed the green by miles on a par 3. But it's entirely up to him or her.
That is where knowing the rules can help you with your tactics, actually. So it's a good one to know.
Yeah, although tactics, we're not suggesting you deliberately let someone tee off from the wrong teeing area outside the tee markers.
No, but in match play, as I say, if you've blazed one into a bush off the tee and you're outside the teeing ground, then I'm well within my rights to use my sort of strategy to think, okay, don't ask him to play that again.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, so number 3 on the list here relates to provisional balls, and I think often golfers think that once they've hit a provisional, then their next act must be to go and look for the first ball. But that's not necessarily the case, is it?
It's not necessarily the case. You might top the provisional 30 yards.
Has been known.
It has been known. The whole benefit of it then becomes irrelevant if your first ball is 230 yards up in the trees. So the rules do allow you to keep playing that provisional ball until you get to the area where the original ball is believed to be. So you can play as many times as you like. If you keep topping it, you might play it 5 times. But once you get to the point where the original ball is believed to be, that's when you can no longer play the provisional. without it automatically then becoming the ball in play.
Yeah, it's about not unduly delaying play, isn't it? There's no reason to stop you from hitting that provisional ball again.
Yeah.
Just to keep going, keep moving, keep pace of play up, and then you go and search for your original ball.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Just it's a good one to know for sort of reasons more than anything, really, I guess.
Yeah, speed of play and etiquette. Yes, good.
Okay, so number 4, and I've seen this rule broken quite a lot, I would say, but probably not in competition golf. But it's the sort of thing that you see whenever you get a bad downpour on the golf course, a really bad downpour, and the greens start to develop a bit of sort of a few puddles on them.
Yeah.
You'll see this rule broken. What is the rule, Jez?
Well, the rule is if you're on the green, you would be able to take relief away from the puddle. But if your ball is off the green, then there is no relief. So you might be standing there thinking, I'm on the fringe. I really like to putt this. There's a massive puddle in the way. What relief do I get? And the answer is none. You have to exercise your skill and chip it over the puddle or do some other shot. But you can't take relief for temporary water on the green if your ball is off the green.
No, a good one to know.
Yeah.
Number 5. This is also I guess this will depend on the golf course or the golf courses that you play most regularly, and sort of the proximity between greens. Explain what it is, Jez.
Well, I mean, basically, you can't play a ball from a wrong green in golf, and a wrong green is any green other than the green of the hole you're playing at the time. And some golf courses, I would say particularly probably narrow links courses, are quite often going to have greens fairly close together. Not just links courses, other places too I can think of, where all that separates them is a little area of fringe. And certainly on a links course, that piece of land might be cut down so tight you fancy putting from one green to the other. But even if it's completely logistically and practically possible, you're not allowed to do it. You must take relief from the wrong green. Obviously, if it's a double green, that's no problem. If it's a double green and you're close to the flag on the other hole coming back the other way, that's fine. But if there is anything between the two greens, like fringe or fairway, then you cannot play from one to the other.
No, indeed. Okay, so number 6 on the list. This relates to distance information and what you are and are not allowed to do when gathering the information that you need in order to judge how far you've got to a certain hole.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the simple thing is that distance information is not considered advice. We know, a lot of golfers know, you're not allowed to give or receive advice out on the golf course, and that would relate to things such as helping you make a decision over what club to hit, what kind of stroke to play, that kind of thing. And some people possibly think that distance information would be advice, but it's not. It's considered public information, as in fact are things like hole location, where bunkers are, what shape the fairway goes after a certain point. That's all considered public information, and you wouldn't be penalised for either giving information about that or receiving it. Whereas if you say to someone, what club did you just hit there? Then that is considered asking for advice.
Yeah, and Jez, can I ask you, can I say the second shot into the third hole, can I say to you, how far have you got there?
If it's relating purely to distance information, then yes, you can, yeah.
Fine, but as long as what comes back isn't advice. So if you say, well, I've got 127 yards, therefore I hit a wedge.
Yeah.
That would be breaking the rules.
That would then stray into the grounds of helping you with your club selection.
There's a subtle difference between advice and information here, but it's a difference that's definitely worth knowing.
Yeah, I mean, the rules are quite specific about it in the definitions. It tells you what is considered advice. Basically says any verbal comment or action, such as showing what club was just used to make a stroke, that is intended to influence a player in choosing a club, making a stroke, or deciding how to play during a hole or round. So that is what the definition of advice is within the rules.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I think you've cleared that up, Jez. Yeah. So thank you on behalf of everybody, because it's a sort of mistake that people can make. Number 7 on the list, you can't drop back in play if you've hit one out of bounds. Now, that's one that I would have known, but I agree with you what you said here. And it's still something that people say from time to time. They play out of bounds and then they want to take a drop from where it crossed the out of bounds line.
Yeah, I think if you play with regular golfers, obviously that they know that you can't do that. But I think less frequent golfers that you might meet on I don't know, a company day or whatever, are going to wander up there and drop one back in, because that's what a lot of people do in friendly games. And certainly when I first played, that's what I did. And it took me a while to realise you couldn't actually do that. But you can't drop back in from out of bounds, sensible though it might seem and tempting though it is. The RNA and the USJ did bring in a permissible local rule that allowed that, and was quite generous in that you could drop back onto the fairway. It was a 2-stroke penalty, but because the handicap authorities in the UK wouldn't sanction that for use in competition play, I'm not sure if any clubs have adopted it. So essentially, it's a non-starter at the moment.
Interesting.
Mm.
It does seem like a good idea in terms of making the game possibly a bit faster and maybe a wee bit easier as well. So for those people who are trying to pick up golf for the first time, who are going to naturally lose quite a few golf balls, just to make it a little bit easier for people who are getting into golf, it seems like a good idea. But I can understand why there are some people resisting that change as well.
Yeah, it's there'll be all sorts of debates about where it crossed, and people will be trying to claim it crossed there, so you're beyond a certain tree that would be in your way otherwise. And there is a bit of a minefield there, but I think there is some merit to it, especially if, as the local rule was going to be, it was a 2-shot penalty. I think most people who drop back in from out of bounds add a shot to their score and carry on. But as we say, the rules don't allow that.
Right, okay. So number 8.
Yeah.
Sand and loose soil may only be moved on the putting green, not elsewhere on the golf course.
Yes.
If it would improve the conditions affecting your next stroke.
Yes. When you're playing from the fringe near a bunker where someone's just sprayed sand everywhere, don't be tempted to get down and brush the sand away on the fringe. But you can do it on the green. That's no problem.
Yeah, I think this is one that's worth saying, that if you're playing friendly golf, like if you and I were playing together in a friendly game, it's the sort of thing that I would do because, frankly, it feels a bit fairer. You don't really feel like you're doing anything wrong. But in competition play, you are going to get penalised for doing that. So it's well worth knowing what the rule is.
Yeah, well, you should get penalised. That depends how well other people you're playing with know the rules. But
true. Well, they've undoubtedly seen this video, Jezz, so they will know.
Yes, hopefully.
So the next one on the list relates to the nearest point of complete relief, but specifically when you're taking your nearest point of relief, when you're doing that from an abnormal ground condition.
Abnormal course condition, yeah. I think the point here is that you have to take complete relief. It's now actually called nearest point of complete relief, which means you can't take a drop off a cart path, see a really nice lush bit that would mean your feet were still on the cart path, try and drop it in that and then play the shot with your feet still on the cart path. You have to take complete relief from the condition you're taking relief from, and that means getting your stance off as well as just the ball. So tempting that might be, the actual reference point and then the dropping area might be an area of heather or something a bit further away. But if you're going to take relief, you have to take complete relief.
And Jezz, just for clarity, what constitutes an abnormal course condition?
Well, I think the rules list GUR, temporary water, animal holes, and immovable obstructions, which is what things like cart paths would fall into. So there's 4 things there under that definition in the rules.
Yes, and you're going to come into contact with those quite a lot. So again, this is a good one to know.
Yeah.
Number 10, so the final one on our list, relates to unplayable ball relief.
Yeah. I think there's still some confusion because of the word unplayable. It kind of implies the ball must be physically unplayable, doesn't it? But but it doesn't. It's almost a misnomer, if you like. It's how the rule is defined, but unplayable is entirely up to you. It could be sitting on a beautiful tuft in the middle of the fairway, and you, the player, could decide that you don't want to play it for some weird reason. The decision as to whether it's unplayable is entirely yours as the player, and some people might decide an unplayable from spots where other people would have a go at it. But,
do you know where I think this is really this is good advice, or it's well worth knowing the rule here, is if let's say you've hit your ball into a bit of heather, and it's quite a long stretch of heather for you to clear to get back to the fairway. So at the top of my head, I'm thinking about the 18th hole on West Hill, where we do a lot of our filming. You hit your ball in the heather, find a really bad lie, and even if you make a really good attempt at playing it, because you can see the ball, chances are you're not going to get the ball back out to the fairway. So your best option might well have been to go back to the tee and hit another one.
It might well have been, or depending where exactly you were, going back online or whatever, might be a lighter patch within 2 club lengths or going back online. But I think, most golfers want to have a go at it if they find it, other than when it's absolutely impossible. So, I would probably want to have a go at it, but It might be a stupid decision. It might well be better to take your shot penalty and take one of the relief options.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that as well. And again, it's another one of these where knowing the rules gives you an important strategy decision to make. Just because you can see the ball sitting there doesn't mean that playing it is the best option.
No, I mean, in that scenario there, you might be playing foursomes with someone who doesn't generate a lot of club head speed, and as his partner that there's zero chance of him getting it out. You then have to have a discussion between the two of you to try and persuade him to take an unplayable, because you just know he's not going to get it out, and then that could lead to further issues. So, I mean, that's just one example. But yeah, the decision as to whether a ball is unplayable is completely yours.
So there you have it. That's our list of 10 rules that golfers still get wrong. And before you go, please do hit the pause button and let us know if you think there are any rules that we've missed in this list. We'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. I think it can be a really useful sort of forum for people to take a look at and to share these thoughts around. I mean, the more information you've got, the better. That way, when you are competing, when you are trying to get your handicap down, you don't make any silly mistakes that can end up costing you penalty shots or possibly even disqualification. Guys, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe and we'll see you soon.